All right, this is going to be the answers for question 2 for the review dimensioning hole spacing. I'll pop over to question number 2. And the question is, what is the maximum distance from the first hole to the last hole? Well, if the distance from hole to hole is 0.5, the greatest distance each hole could be would be 0.53. So, if you take out your calculator, of course I don't have it handy, it would be 0.53 times 7. And that would mean that the distance from the first hole to the last hole would be 3.71 based on the way this is dimensioned. So again, it says 0.50 typical. Each hole could be a maximum distance of 0.53. 0.53 times 7 gives you 371. And that is the answer to the first question. The next question is then, what is the minimum distance from the first hole to the last hole? Well, you do that same calculation, except for you take the minimum distance. So the minimum distance would be 0.50 subtracted from the tolerance, which would be minus 0.03, which is 47. 47 times 7 gives you a distance of 329. And that is the minimum distance from this first hole to the last hole. So question number 3, what is the maximum distance between the datum B to the furthest hole from datum B? So that's this datum line here, all the way to this hole up here. What would the maximum distance be? So if you recall, we came up with 371 for the maximum distance from hole to hole. You would add 0.30 plus the tolerance 0.03. So it's 0.33 plus the 371. So we had the 371 up there earlier. Again, I calculated that by going 53 times the 7. Plus the 0.3 from the edge to the hole, plus the tolerance 0.03. The answer is 4.04. Then doing the exact opposite of that, it was from hole to hole 0.47 times the 7. 0.47 times the 7 gets you the 329. That's the minimum distance from the top hole to the bottom hole. Then you got to subtract out we'll add 0.3. Oh shoot, I lost it. I'll do that again. 47 times 7. That's the 329 from hole to hole, top hole to bottom hole. Plus 0.3. I did that wrong. 0.3, and then you got to subtract out 0.03 tolerance, and I get 356. Okay, so that's the minimum distance the last hole will be, this hole to this hole, if everything were to the minimum conditions. So that being the opposite side, if it were 3.56 from this edge to this hole, if that were at 356, what would the distance be from this hole to this edge? Well, the distance from here to here is 3.5 plus 0.6, or 3.5 plus 0.3 plus 0.3 for the opposite side. That would be the idea nominal size. So nominal size would be 4.1. So if you had 3.56 and you subtracted out 4.1, you get 54. So the distance from the first hole to the last hole would be 54. Now, if it were the exact opposite way, where we were at 4.04, that being from this edge all the way up to the last hole, if the holes were at the greatest deviation of 0.53 and this were 0.33, we would subtract that from 4.1. That gets you a distance of just 0.06. So if this were maxed out, where this edge to this hole were 0.33, and from this hole to this hole to this hole to this hole to this hole and so on, we're 53 each, because that's our tolerance based on how this is dimensioned, that would only leave you 0.06 from the edge. So 0.06 from the edge is going to actually have the hole go right through the edge of the part. And that's why I don't like to dimension like this. It may say so in the ASME specs to dimension like this, but it leaves you vulnerable because the tolerance for each hole from hole to hole is 53, or tolerance is 0.3, so each hole could be 0.53 apart. All right, so hopefully this helps you understand why you have to dimension things a certain way. The best way to get around that is to dimension like we did up here. If you dimension from the first hole or the bottom hole to the top hole, then the greatest deviation you're going to have is 353 instead of the 371 that we would have from tolerance buildup. All right, hopefully this helps you with the answers for question number 2.